got a technical glitch.
Yeah, something like that. Welcome to this Planning Commission meeting. The date is Monday, April 27th. Will everyone please rise for Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. The first item for tonight's agenda is the actual approval of the agenda. Does anyone have any corrections or any changes that they'd like to make? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Fantastic. The next motion is to approve the minutes from the following commission meeting, which would be April 13th, 2015. Does anybody have any changes that they'd like to make? Okay, not seeing any. All in favor say aye.
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 Any abstentions? I need to abstain. Anybody else? I wasn't here. Okay. Moving forward, we have the first public hearing for tonight. The request is Eden Prairie Plaza. The request is for a planned unit development district review on 3.03 acres, a zoning district amendment review on 3.03 acres, and a site plan review on 3.03 acres. With that being said, will the proponent of the project please come forward? State your name, please, for city record, and tell us a little bit about your project, please.
Good evening. My name is Brent Van Loo. I'm with Salon Concepts and Prairie LLC. A little difficult to. It's Salon Concepts Eden Prairie LLC. We purchased this property. We actually opened as a tenant in the center a little over a year ago. We have what are called individual salon suites. So we have a number of stylists that come in and rent individual salons from us. So we're a relatively high volume parking tenant. When we moved in, we've got 36 individual salon suites in there. We're currently about 25 out of 36 rented. Since the day we opened the doors, we began experiencing problems with parking, primarily due to Champs and the other tenants in the area when they would hold any sort of special event, which they do every day, or you get a weather day like today and everybody's outside enjoying the weather. We were experiencing parking problems almost from the get-go. Through some course of events, we ended up purchasing the property from Kimco, who was the prior owner, in December of 2014. So at that point in time, we met and came to the city and expressed our desire to take the outdoor former nursery area, and basically it's an outdoor cube that has a large wall on the rear side of it that's 80% concrete now. There's some old planting beds that are in there, and our idea was, could we just fill this in, tear down this back wall, and alleviate some of the parking pressures that exist at the center. Well, I didn't realize we had to go from the outdoor display area to a parking, so we put together the entire report and plan here, and have been working with Julie and Tanya extensively over the last 90 days, and believe we've come up with a good plan that we hope will eliminate the ongoing problems that we've had at the center. While at the same time I realized, and didn't realize it at the time, but this is being rezoned, and so we're going to the town center zoning, and there's lots of other guidelines that go along with that. We've invested almost $800,000 into our salon. We've got an initial 10-year lease with 2 5-year options. We're going to be at that site for a long time, and we'd like to improve it while we're there, and hopefully improve the experience both for our clients and stylists, but also everyone else that's at the center, because there is a shared cross-parking easement with Champs Petco as well as our location, and so it literally, on a weekly basis, we're having issues where it is 100%. There is not, there are people parking around the back and on the sides and everything. So we're just hoping this is a good interim solution that still allows for the long term, the ability to redevelop this site at some point in the future, as I know is what is desired for this area. So,
Do you have anything else to add at all at this time?
not that I can think of.
Okay, we'll let you know if we have additional questions.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Julie, will you take us through the staff report, please?
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, as Mr. Van Loo stated, the applicant is requesting a PUD amendment specifically to convert that outdoor storage area, former nursery area, into a parking area. That area can accommodate approximately 58 stalls, as shown on the site plan that you have before you. So essentially that western wall would be removed. Access to this area would be provided behind the building. There would be one-way circulation through the parking area itself in order to minimize conflicts between the traffic of the delivery trucks using that area as well as those cars that might be parking in this new parking area. You'll note on the circulation plan, there is signage that is included, there is surface painting, there is installation of a curb to help direct traffic through that parking area. As Mr. Van Loo mentioned, this area is part of the major center area as well as the town center. So the proponent has made some improvements to the site to bring the location into more compliance with the town center design guidelines. There has been the inclusion of some landscaping beds to increase the pedestrian environment along Eden Road. There has been some surface planters, bike racks, benches, and site lighting provided on the property as well to bring it closer to the town center design guidelines. Staff is recommending approval of the development. The development does also include 2 PUD waivers. One is a waiver from the 5% requirement of parking islands in a parking area. Primarily, that provision is in code in order to break up large expanses of asphalt parking lot. Because this parking lot is already segregated from the existing parking lot, staff is recommending approval of that waiver. In addition, as the staff report talks about, this area is foreseen to redevelop at some point in the future. The other waiver that is being requested is the requirement of 30% impervious surface within a shoreland overlay zone. This is an existing condition. The site is developed in conformance with previous approvals. However, the waiver to the shoreland ordinance was never memorialized in those approvals, even though, as I said, it has developed consistent with those approved plans. So staff is recommending approval subject to the conditions outlined in your report.
Thank you very much, Julie. Seeing that this is a public hearing, is there anyone out in the audience that has any comments or concerns about this project? If so, now would be the time to come forward. Not seeing any. Julie, the first question I have for you, actually one of the only questions I have for you, is when it talked about 58 stalls, knowing that this gets full pretty quickly and over several days a week, is 58 enough? Does that kind of put a Band-Aid on it, or do you have any idea, or does city staff have any idea of what that's going to do? Is that going to relieve a lot, a little, any sense?
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, I would defer specific comment on that to the applicant. Staff feels that this will help remediate the problem with regard to parking that occurs on this site. In addition, there may be off-peak hours that don't necessarily correspond between the users on site. For instance, Champs may have events going on much later than Salon Concepts and the Dollar Tree do, so there may be some opportunity for mixed use of those at those times. So staff is hopeful that this will remediate that issue.
Okay, Mr. Van Loo, can you come forward and did you hear that question? And
I did, and I do believe that it, as Julie mentioned, a lot of it has to do with overlapping periods. Mm-hmm. So our primary hours, let's call it, of probably 10 a.m. till 7 p.m. Everybody can work their own independent schedule. We don't have set hours. So I do believe with the addition of 58 spaces, which would primarily be for our employees, or not employees, the folks that work at Salon Concepts and the surrounding employees, they would be entering and leaving at off-peak hours and eliminate or very much help with the parking issue out for the general public.
Okay.
So I think it would not be a Band-Aid.
Okay. Thank you very much. Commissioners, any other follow-up questions that you may have? Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I am also aware that we're going to be possibly looking at light rail transit through that area, and I'm sure you're aware of all of the, or many of that discussions that have already taken place. I was just curious about whether you have any thoughts about how you want to try to, live through that adjustment as well, or the things that you're mindful of at this point. I mean, even though we don't know very much yet about the final design, about how it's going to happen, I understand that's sort of a question that's sort of not in the right time frame, but I just have it on my mind a lot lately.
Well, the fact of the light rail coming in, we had made our decision to put our salon there prior to the decision to buy it. I cannot think of any negative that it would cause with respect to our business or our surrounding businesses. One of the things we did was through the coordination here, we granted or offered to grant, or however technically you call it, the addition of a larger sidewalk easement along the rear and utilities and all that. I think it would be a great thing for us. Yeah.
Okay. It's helpful. Thank you.
Okay.
Travis, did you have a question as well?
Oh, sure. Could you explain I'm a little unclear about the parking. Is it salon concept customer parking only and employees, or what? Could you explain what the signage will be?
No, yes, I'm sorry. I'll just stay up here, I think, for you. Yeah, so what we've proposed is the southern half, if you could just drew a line east to west through it, would have signage designated for Salon Concepts employee parking. They're not our employees, so I struggle with that. The stylist would be instructed to park there. And then we've been in discussions and talking with all the, Dollar Tree, obviously, we talk with on a regular basis, and Champs and Petco about, I think they're currently using off-site parking or something like that for some of their employees. We would try and have that, the majority of it there, because they'd be entering through the rear where they know delivery schedules better than the public. It would all be open to the public, not drivable, but walkable through the front as well.
Great. Thank you.
Sure.
My question might be for both the project proponent and for staff. Looking at the front facade is going to be kept in Florida. You're going to have the front facade be separate from the main parking area and then the employee parking area.
Correct.
From its current standing in the interim until obviously there's redevelopment, that's opportunity in the town center area and the major center areas, but in the interim, what are the fire load characteristics of having vehicles versus nursery? And has that been addressed with the fire marshal, with the fire chief?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, the fire department and the building official have reviewed the application to ensure that fire access codes are met and that they are able to provide service in the event that they would need to.
So did they explain that the service would be coming around the back end of the building then? That's how their main access would be?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, yes, the fire department understands that their main access would be through the back. However, the wrought iron that exists in the front today will be removed so that there would be able to be some provision of service from the main parking lot as well.
Okay, that was my, both sides, that was my concern. Okay,
correct.
I'm good.
Mr. Chair, if I could go back to the parking point and provide some clarification on exactly who will be permitted or not permitted to park back here. The narrative suggests that it would be exclusively for the employees or other employees of other businesses.
Correct.
And the site plan talks about patron parking there also, but the signage messages don't talk about directing wayfinding for the patrons or inviting patrons back there. Is that your intent, to have patrons also and potentially then other customers of other businesses?
Not necessarily. Our hope is that, again, because of the access being from the rear of the building, that all of the employees from Petco, Champs, Dollar Tree, Salon Concepts, and that will park there, as opposed to parking out in the front, which should be left for paying customers.
Sure.
Yes, that's our intent.
Okay. There was a point made in the narrative about how when employees park back there, there'll be regular parkers, and there was some additional safety benefits of that, because any vehicles using the loading dock people would know that because they were regular parkers, and so I was just concerned that if you had patrons who were just not regular customers, if there were any other safety concerns that we would need enforcement or anything.
And that is correct. What we intend to do is have it for employee-based parking, not off-the-street patron parking.
Sure, okay.
Did I answer your question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, it answers my question. Your half, of course, if you're closing down at 7 p.m. and the dinner rush at Champs might say be after that Friday night, Saturday nights, I think a savvy patron of Champs is going to drive by there and see an empty parking lot, and they're going to find their way back there.
Yeah.
And so I just want to bring that up as signage or enforcement of just how that's going to be managed.
Well, we do, obviously, we're going to attempt to the best of our ability with signage throughout. We do have on-site maintenance management. Also, the cooperation, when I've talked to the other property owners and businesses there, they're beside themselves in a good way that we're proposing to do this. So, part of this has to be, the folks at Petco and Champs and Dollar Tree need to talk with their employees, and we're certainly going to present this. It's a little premature for me to present anything to them at this point, but our hope is with their input and their help, we can manage that. Right now they have a security guard that stands out in front of the Petco places, which does not sit very well with people when those are all vacant and, So our hope is we will not have to do that. I don't think we will.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, I'm wondering long-term if you've thought about what plans you might have. We're talking about light rail and as soon as now 2020 within a very short distance of the salon, and that property being pretty different than the vision of the town center, even with the change. So imagine we don't approve the parking change. What does that mean for your business and for Dollar Tree and for Champs versus approving the change? Would development come more quickly?
To be honest with you, as I mentioned, we've invested $800,000 of cash into that space before we had any idea that we were going to own it. We did have some discussions with the prior owner, Kimco, that hey, this just seems like an obvious step here, that this is wasted space. We would really like to see you try and get it into a parking lot, which they expressed, they kind of thought they would. They changed their plans and sold the building. But the long and short of it is, I've got $800,000 invested into it. We're going to be there for a long time. I realize now that we own it and we discussed, hey, would there be a possibility of building something else here in the short term? That's out of the question. Understood. This is hopefully a positive for the development, for the overall development for the short term. It's allowing us to utilize a lot of the existing conditions that are there that are frankly just going to waste right now. So we don't have a huge capital outlay to fix this issue and give us all some relief for the foreseeable future, and not invest a bunch of money that we realize this property is going to, including our property and Petco and Champs and all that. It's not going to be that way 20 years from now.
So, all right, so you see that as a short-term, relatively short-term.
Correct. It's a mid-term solution, but for the time being, for 10 years and 15 years, whatever it may be, it's a great solution for us, and I think it helps all of the other businesses in the area as well with a real parking issue that exists.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'll let you know
Thank you.
further. Guys, you have something else?
I guess kind of maybe something else. This might be more specifically for staff. We're with the approval or the potential approval of this project, we're giving a waiver of 9.9% increase in impervious surface. Now that we understand that this is an interim until light rail can come in, just maybe if you could just go forward for those that are part of the listening public that may not understand the idiosyncrasies of the interim, that waiver, I'm assuming that waiver is not going to follow completely through, and then we will be looking at the new TCA guidelines in the LRT Overland District and the more strict guidelines when another developer or another project proponent comes forward. I just want to reiterate that fact.
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, as stated earlier in the discussion, both by Mr. Van Loo and myself, the property is guided for town center. So upon redevelopment of the property, a rezoning would be necessary to bring it into conformance with the comprehensive plan. And there are also, as you're well aware, very detailed design guidelines for the town center that talk about every potential aspect of development within that area that a new redevelopment plan would be required to adhere to or come into compliance with. So we'd be looking at all of those design standards at that time.
Does that answer your question? You're good? Okay.
Not so much a question, just
A comment?
reiteration.
Got it. Okay. Are there any other comments or concerns that the Commission has?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
If I could just talk about stormwater management for a moment. I also understand this is an interim project and maybe has warranted some special treatment. On the plans, on the survey specifically, there was a note about the current drains that apparently the surveyor didn't know where they would drain to. I had some concern about that. I consulted with staff today, and apparently there was some subsequent discovery that the drains do in fact tie into the existing stormwater system. I was going to recommend and open for discussion that the applicant may consider a piped drain system into the existing stormwater drainage, but apparently that isn't necessary now. So just for the record, obviously we're approving a parking lot that doesn't have slope to drain, which an ordinary new parking lot would, but in the interim condition I think that's acceptable. So just wanted to state those conditions. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Commissioners, anything else before we move forward? Okay, if not, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to close the public hearing.
Second?
Motion second, all in favor, say aye.
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 Move to recommend approval of the planned unit development district review on 3.03 acres, zoning district amendment review on 3.03 acres, and site plan review on 3.03 acres as represented in the April 27th, 2015 staff report and the plan stamp dated April 27th, 2015.
Second?
Motion second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, you can move forward with your project. Thank you very much. Moving along in tonight's agenda, we have the planner's report.
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, I just wanted to remind the Commission members that the Board and Commission banquet is scheduled for Wednesday, May 13th at 6 o'clock here at City Center in the Garden Room.
Great. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Moving on, do you have any other planners reports? Is that it, Julie?
No, sir.
Okay. Any members' reports for tonight?
I just have one brief update as a member of the Community Advisory Committee.
Yep.
We have not had a meeting since our last meeting. We have one tomorrow. There was a press release. Commissioner Weber kind of alluded to it today. There was a delay now from 2019 to 2020 for the opening of the Southwest Light Rail. Additionally, there's a $341 million increase in projected costs, bringing it to $2 billion. It's largely due to poor ground conditions along the line and soil contamination in St. Louis Park and Hopkins. So I imagine this will be part of our discussion at our meeting tomorrow, so we'll report back on that. But if you look in the paper today or online, you'll see the governor has weighed in with some concerns as well. So
just to be clear, you said $2 billion.
$2 billion.
1.6.
$2 billion. Okay. Very good. Thank you very much.
Awesome.
Okay. Any other members' reports for tonight? Any continuing business? Any new business? If not, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment. Motion in a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.